Good evening. In previous session, we have seen basics of multi-threading, and we have also seen how to create a thread by using one method. That is, without using any class, we have created a thread in previous session. So today we are going to see remaining two methods how to create a thread. So in previous session, what we have seen? In previous session, we have created a thread without using any class. That is creating a thread, creating a thread without using any class. That means here I am not going to show you any concept of class. Next, if you are going second method, creating a thread by extending thread class, by extending thread class. So here, as we are having three types of methods to create a thread, based on our requirement, we are going to any one of the method. Next, creating a thread without extending thread class. That means in third method we are having the concept of classes, but in that I am not going to use sorry, I am not going to extend the thread class. Without extending thread class also I can create a thread. So in previous session we have seen about creating a thread without using any class. So once again, briefly I will show you how to create that, so that you will get a idea once again. So in which module we are having this thread concept? In threading module. Okay, so what I have to write? I have to write import threading, or we can write what? From threading import all. We can write anything. From threading I am going to write import all. So whenever we are going to write anything from the threading, no need of writing threading dot. Directly we can write the particular class name directly. So now see, here I will just define a method, some display method I am going to write here. In this display method, just I want to print a small message. So print of hi I am going to write. Okay, right. So now I want to create a thread. So for creating a thread, I have to use a class called as thread class. So if I'm going to create a thread, why we are going to create a thread? To give some task to that particular thread. Which task you want to give? Task is nothing but what here? A method that has to be executed by a thread. This is a task. Here we are having one method or one function we are having here. I want to give this function to be executed by this thread. So I have to write this one. I have to write what? Target equal to. Target is nothing but what? What this thread has to be executed. That means what this thread has to executed will be written as a target. So here target equal to, what is the method name here? Display. So I have to write what? Display. Now I have assigned the task for this thread. Now I have to start that thread. So whenever you are going to start a thread, if you are passing any argument to this thread, let us consider t dot start I told. So after executing start method, so what is the use of start method? Means internally when we are going to start any thread, there is some mandatory activities will be there. Yesterday I have explained you already. So that will be executed after completing start method. Directly it will invoke this one, because t I have equated, I have passed one parameter to this thread. That is what? Target is display. That means after executing the start method by this t, it will go to which one? Display method or display function. So it will execute that. Now here I am going to write what? Just I want to write some other statement. Print of, this is what? Main thread. This is executing by main thread. So this is executing by what? Child thread. For example, I will write here child thread. So now observe here, who is execute? What is the default thread we are having in our Python? Main thread. Okay, so all these statements will be executed by main thread. But who is sorry, all these statements are going to be executed by main thread. Then who will execute this display? This display will be executed by child thread. which is created by main thread. Because by executing this line, who is executing this line? This line is executed by main thread. So that child thread is created. Here I am starting the child thread here. So whenever I am going to start the child thread, what happens? The child thread has to execute something. What is that something? Which function it has to execute? I have passed that function name as a target. As I have passed this display method as a target for this thread, it will be executed after thread is started. So here, from after this step, after this particular statement, two threads will be there. The task of child thread will be what? Display. So the child thread starts what? Executing this child thread, and the main thread will execute what? Remaining statements if there are any. So remaining statement means what? Print main thread, and if there are any other statement below, it will execute. Child thread, it will execute what? This one. Only the task of child thread is to execute this display method only. Okay, right. Now let us execute this program so that you'll get a small idea here. So what we got? Main thread, child thread. Because I have, so here what happens? Side by side game, but we have written what? Print. Because both are executing simultaneously, we cannot say it will come in a next line. We can't expect the exact output. See here, first it came what? Main thread and child thread as an output. After that we got what? Child thread and main thread. We can't expect exact output here because both the threads are executing simultaneously. So in previous session, I have shown you by taking the for loop also. Just I will show you once again by taking the for loop. For I in, I will take some range of 10. Okay, right. That means it is going to execute how many times? 0 to 9 times. That is totally 10 times. This main thread is going to be printed. In the same way, I want to write here also. That is for I in range of 10. This one also, it is going to execute how many times? 10 times. Now observe carefully. So what happens? What is the task of child thread here? T dot start. What I am passing for the T? Display. That means here, from here, child thread is going to be started and it jumps to execute this display method or display function. And who is executing this one now? It will be executed by main thread. So main thread is executing here, child thread is executing here. Main thread is printing main thread, child thread is printing what? Child thread 10 times. So both are executing simultaneously. If both are executing simultaneously, what happens? The output will be clumsy or the output will be mixed together. We can't expect the exact output. Okay, let us see once again. Yesterday already we have seen. So what we got here? Child thread, main thread we got. Now once again I will execute this one. Observe carefully. So again same output we got. Again same output we sorry, here the output is changed. Observe here, up to here child thread, main thread, child thread, main thread, and so on we got. But here what happens? Main thread, child thread, main thread, child thread we got. If you see above example also, above example what happens? All child thread, main thread, child thread, main thread we got. Once again if you execute, we can't expect exact output here. So see now, here what happens? Here child thread after space we got, main thread after space we got. So see, again we got what? Child thread, main thread only, all. Again same. So again same. Again same. But that means what? We can't expect, right? It is going to give me same output multiple times. Okay. Anyway, we can't expect the exact output when two threads are executing simultaneously. So now I will go to second method, how to create a thread. So see here, creating a thread by extending a thread class. By extending what? Thread class. So first I will create a class. For example, I will create a class here. So already you know how to create a class. So class, I'm going to take as it is my class, I'm going to take my class. So for what I'm going to take this class? For creating a thread. Just I will take the class name as my thread. Okay. So it has to extend what? It has to extend thread class. Already we have completed the concept of inheritance. There you can observe what you can observe, how to how to extend the properties and what is the syntax for creating the child class. Already we know that concept. So what we have to write? My thread in bracket. If you write thread, the meaning of this one is what? In bracket, whatever we are having, that class will act as a super class, and this class will act as what? Child class. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Right. Now here, this thread properties is obtained by whom? My thread. If I create, observe carefully. If I create this class is also having what? The properties of thread. Now observe here. I am going to write one function. This is very important function. Define run method. Run method is very important. Okay. Now here what I am doing? I am going to write the definition for the run. That is, let us take only one statement. That is print of child thread I am going to take. Okay. Just I want to print child thread. So if I want to print multiple times, just I will take for I in a range of some 5, I will take here. Okay. Okay. So this is the task of child thread. Right. Now I have created one class and it is extending which class? Thread class. Now what I have to do? Now I want to create a thread. Now tell me here what my thread means. My thread is also a thread because it is extending thread class properties. So I will create t dot my thread. My thread is a class. So now what happens? T is object of my thread. My thread is extending thread class. So my thread will have the properties of thread. That means this T will act as what? T will also act as a thread only. There is no problem. Now, so what I have to do? I have to start the thread to execute. So what I have to write? T dot start. Same logic as we have seen in before method. Compulsory to run a thread, first it has to start. So that I am going to use what? T dot start method. Whenever in previous example I have shown you that whenever you are going to write t dot start, what happens? First it will execute start method of thread class. Observe this is very important. It is going to do what? It is going to execute the start method of thread class. After that it will call run method here. How it will call run method means after executing entire code of start method, last method is invoking the run method by default. If you are not going to write anything here in bracket as a parameter for a thread class, if you are not going to write anything, then by default run method is going to be executed. So I will show you some cases about this particular start method. Now here t dot start I have written. So now after this, just I want to print main thread 10 times. So for I in range of, let us take not 10, let us take 5 here. Right. Now here, just I want to print what? I want to print main thread. Okay. Right. Now observe carefully. Again, I'm going to explain this program. Only here you have to understand this line and this line. And here we are using what? Run method. So this is what? An object of type my thread. Before what we have written, same program. Before what I have written, just I will write here. Just I will copy the same thing and I will differentiate between before program and this program. Okay, now observe. So before I have taken define some display I have taken. Okay, right. Okay, now see. There we are not using any concept of classes. So I have just written what? Define. I have written right. Okay. So now see here, just I have written what? Display function. And here what I am writing? Here what I have to write? Display only. I have to call what? I have to pass target as display. Target equal to display I have to write. After that I have to write t dot start. This is the program what we have seen there previously. Here what we are going to do in this and what we are going to do in this I will explain now clearly. Here t is which object? T is thread object because I'm going to thread here. So now T is having the properties of thread, so I can call T as a thread now. Now, when I call T dot start, what happens? T is going to execute. T means which type? Thread type. So T is going to execute start method of thread class. What will be there in that start method? Some mandatory activities will be there. That means what? For every, if you are going to create anything, for example, uh, if any student want to join into a college or a school, first he has to do some mandatory things. Those are what? Submitting the certificates, and he has to get a roll number, he has to apply the ID card, he has to pay the fee. Many activities has to be done. In the same way, whenever we are going to start a thread, sorry, whenever we want to run a thread, then first we have to start that one. In that, some mandatory activities will be done. After that, what happens? After start, that means what? After all the formalities has been completed, then it has to execute its task. What it has to execute, that means what we have passed for this thread as a argument, target is display. After executing start method, directly it will go to this display method. That means what? Child thread will be started and it will go to this display method and it will execute this one. At that time, what main thread is going to do? Main thread will execute this one. Is it okay? Yes. Now the concept is, now you have to observe here carefully. Here, if you are going to consider this case, second case, that is, here I am going to take by extending a thread class. If you are going to say that by extending a thread class, here what we require here, we require a class. So that I have created what? Thread class here. Okay. So my thread I have created, which is extending the properties of thread class. So automatically my thread is having which properties now? Thread properties. That means my thread is also can also act as what? Can also act as thread now, because it is having the properties of thread, right? Now I have written something inside a run method. This method is very important. Here we have written some display. This name can be anything in previous program, but here compulsory it has to be run only. If you are not using any target equal to something, then compulsory we have to use the concept of run method only. Okay, right. Now observe here, I have written some code for the run. So whenever I'm going to create an object, what is the object name here? The object is T. It is which type of object? It is my thread type. So why here we have created my thread? Reason should be there. Some reason should be there. What is that reason? Because I want to execute where my definition is present inside a, my definition is present inside a my thread. So that I have created, as my thread is also having the properties of thread, I have written T equal to my thread. Now can I call T as a thread type? Yes, it is a thread type. There is no problem because my thread is having properties of thread. Now I am calling T dot start. So T is which type? My thread type. Is there any start in this my thread? Not there. Then how this start method will be executed? So if it is, if start is not present in my thread, it is having the super class, that is what? Thread class. So it will jump to thread class and it will execute start method of that particular thread class. What we want, we also want the same thing to be executed, because whenever a thread want to execute, compulsory it has to do some formalities. Without doing formalities, he cannot enter into the execution. For example, without paying the fee, without getting the roll number, if anyone comes into your class, is it a correct type of implementation? If will student comes into a class? No, he will not come to the class because he don't know which class to enter. Okay, so that compulsory, if I want to say something as a thread, first it has to execute which method? Start method. So here previously what I have run, target equal to display. Did I write anything here? Nothing. If I am not writing anything to execute by this object, then by default after executing the start method, it will search for run method. It will search for run method. Where it will search? Who is calling start method? T is calling start method. So after completing the start method, it will directly invoke run method. Whose run method? Means T's run method. What is T? It is which type? My thread type. So it will go to my thread and it will search for what? Run method. Is there any run method here? Yes, automatically it will execute this run method. Okay, so child thread is going to execute this run method, and main thread is going to execute remaining main thread. That is what the remaining statements in main. So now observe carefully. Now I will execute this program. We will get the same output. Anyway, as both are going to execute simultaneously, what happens? We are going to get output as what? Mixed output. So observe carefully. So child thread, main thread we got. Child thread, main thread once again. Child thread, main thread. As the program is very small, as anyway, we got here difference. So see, we can't expect exact output. Sometimes it will come in this way, or sometimes in this way, or some other times different ways we are going to get the output, because both are executing simultaneously. Observe here, once again it is giving you child thread, main thread. Okay, once again child thread, main thread. Once again, right? If you execute multiple times only, you can observe the difference. Okay, right? Anyway, you already observed the difference. So this is the way how to create the thread by extending the thread class. Here 2 points are important. That is, here a class has to extend a thread here, and whenever a class is extending a thread class, automatically this class is going to get the properties of thread class. Then what happens? Then my thread is also having the properties of thread class. That means if I create the object of type my thread, this T can also act as a thread. Okay, so T equal to my thread I am going to write. As my thread is having thread properties, T will also act as a thread. So T dot start, T is which type? My thread type. It will go to my thread. Is there any start method in this? Not there. So you have, if it is not there in the child class, it will search in where? Super class. Already we know, according to the MRO, that is C3 algorithm, method resolution order, we have seen already. So it will go to super class and it will search for start. As there is a start method in this thread, already there is a start method in this thread. So it will execute the mandatory activities, which is by default, it is available in thread class. After that, after completing that start, it will come to this parameter, to search these parameters. Is there anything here? Nothing is there. So if no parameter is passed for this one, by default it will call run method. By default it will call what? Run method. So that the task of child thread is to execute this run method. The task of main is what? To execute this remaining thing. So anyway, both are executing simultaneously. We are going to get the same output. Okay. So this is the concept of creating a thread by extending a thread class. So I will take this scenario and I will take many cases. So before that, I will tell you how to create a thread by using without extending a thread class. Just without extending means what? Just I will remove this one. That's it. I am not going to extend this one. Okay. So anyway, before going to this method, I will discuss once again about this case. That means what? We have to create child class for a thread class. In this method, first what we have to do? We have to create child class for a thread class. I have created. Next, what I have to do? In that child class, we have to override run method. Why we are calling it as a override means this run method is available in thread class. This run method is available where? In thread class. So that if I want to execute my own code by the thread, I have to write run method here. I have to override. Okay, right. When we call this start method, automatically after executing this start method, this run method will be executed, and this is going to be executed. Okay, right. So don't worry, I will show you many cases by regarding to this multi-threading. So before that, I want to go to next case. That is what? Creating a thread without extending a thread class. That means what? Here I want to use a classes, but I don't want to use the concept of extending a thread. That means what? Just I have to go for, I have to remove this thread class here. I don't want to extend. Without extending this, I have to do. Right. Now observe carefully here. I have not taken anything. If I am not going to extend a thread class. Run is not there here. If you want to write run, it will act as a normal method. It is not dependent on any thread class. So I don't want run here. You can change anything. If you want to keep run, there is no problem. If you don't want to keep run also, there is no problem. So that I am going to change it as a display method. Display or show method, anything. I have taken it as a display method. So now here what happens? Here same thing I will leave it. But here what I have to do? This is the case. So as I am creating here one object, what is the object name here? T object. T object I am going to create. Which type object it is? My thread type. T is which type? My thread type. So now if you want to change the name, you can change. Okay, just I have kept it as my thread only. Now what I have to do? I compulsory, it is very important to understand. Here in before case, what I am doing, T dot start means where the start method is there. Start method is present in a thread class. Start method is present in a thread class. So that in before case, what I have done, my thread is extending thread class. So that start is available for the my thread also. So T dot start means correct only. But now, am I using any thread class in my program? I am not going to use. So that I need some thread object. For that, I am going for thread. Thread class, I am going for thread class. So here I will write this thread object as, for example, X. What is the name of the thread object here? X. So X equal to thread I am going to write. So X means what now? Thread object. So what that thread object has to execute, I have to write here. So target equal to, now observe carefully here, what this T contains. This T contains, T is which type of object? My thread type. If it is my thread type, what it contains? If it is my thread type, it contains what? Let us consider this is what? T. T is an object of my thread. My thread is having what? Display. So it is going to contain which method? Display method. Okay, right. Now here, if I want to call this display method, I have to use what? T dot display. We know this one. T dot display. In previous example, what I have shown you, in previous example, I have called T dot start. Automatically run is called. If I am not going to pass any argument to the thread class, that is thread. Next one is what? First case, what happened? I have discussed about target equal to. I have to pass parameter as what? Target equal to function name. Here also same way. I want to execute what? Child thread has to execute what? Child thread has to execute a method called as display here. So to execute that one, I require what? To execute that one, I require an object. What is the name of that object here? T. Okay, right. Here I am going to write T dot. Observe carefully. T dot. Which method I want? Display method. So T dot display is going to be executed. What is the target now? Tell me. Target is T dot display. That means the display method that is present in T. Okay. So X is what? Now the thread name is X. So if I write X dot start, what happens? So X is which type of object? Thread type. So if it is a thread type of object, for that which method is going to be available? Start is going to be available, because where start is present? Start is present inside a thread class. Okay. So as X is an object of type thread, for that X start is going to be available, so that it started X dot start. Is there any parameter that I have passed for this thread? Yes, I am passing. If I am not passing, it will search for thread. But am I passing or not here? Yes, we are passing. So after completing this start, observe only one thing, that compulsory, if you are going to create a thread, compulsory start method has to be executed first. If you are not executing a start method, then what happens? Then automatically thread will not be created. I will show you all those cases once we have completed this concept. Okay, right. Now here X dot start. So X belongs to what? Thread class. As thread is containing start method will be executed from the thread class. After completing start method, it will search for what? The threads method which has to be executed. So that X belong for X, what I am passing as target T dot display. So T means what? My thread object. So it will go to T and it will execute what? Display. So Target is what? T dot display. So it will go to T, and in the display is there, the display will be executed. Anyway, I'm using same type of example for 3 programs. So we will get same output. So if I execute once again, what happens? Same thing. So if you see, you can see the difference here. If I execute 3 or 4 times, you will get the different output, because both are executing simultaneously. That is the reason we cannot expect the output here. So these are the 3 ways to create a thread. So again, I want to give a clarity to you. That is what? If you are not passing, observe carefully, I will not pass anything here. I will not pass anything. So let us see, will there be any output or not? So something is printing. You may be shocked by seeing this one. So don't worry about that. I will explain all those cases now. So one point you have to remember is that what? If you are not going to pass anything for a thread class, it will search for a run. If run is not there, it will execute thread class run. What will be there in the thread class run? I will explain now. So if I am passing anything to this one, it will execute that particular method. Okay, if I'm not passing anything, it will search for a run method. So now I will go to different type of scenarios. Okay, now see how many ways we can create a thread. 3 ways. One is without using any class. I will create a function. I will create a thread object. Just I will write a 3 different ways here so that you will get a clarity. First way, define M1 I am going to write, and so on. I am going to create what? Thread object, and in this what I'm going to write? Target equal to display I am going to write, so that you can understand clearly that which function will be called by that particular thread. Completed. Just what I have to write? T dot start is compulsory, right? This is first way. What is second way? By extending a thread class. That means class. So here what happens? The task of this T thread is what? Child thread will execute this one. Main thread will execute these statements. Now, class, some example I'm going to write A, which extends thread. Okay, right here I'm going to take one method called as define M1. So sorry, here which method? Where we have to define the task of a thread? Inside a run method. So I'm going to write this. Whatever the definition is there, I'm going to write here. Now same thing, T equal to what I have to write? A, because the class name is what? A now. In these brackets, I'm not going to pass anything. T dot start. Observe carefully here. T belongs to whom? T belongs to A. A is extending thread. So don't worry. For this, T start is available because it is taken from this thread class. So T dot start means the thread class start will be executed, and after that it will come to where it will check for the parameters. Is there any parameter in this bracket? Not there. So it will execute what? It will execute run method. It will execute what? Run method. This is second case. Next, third case. Here I am going to take a class and I am not going to extend a thread class. Here I am going to write what? Define some, okay, display I am going to write. Here I am going to write some self I am going to write. Some statements are there. Now observe carefully. Again here also what I am going to do? T space. Okay, before that I have to create what? Object of this class, because I want to execute this one. I want to assign this particular function or method to the thread. So x equal to A I am going to write. So what is the target here? Target equal to display. This display. So that if I want to access this display, how I have to access? Object dot. Okay, what I write? Object dot display. So in this way I have to call. Okay, automatically next step is same. Next step is what? Next step is T dot start. T dot start is very important. It is very important, because without executing the start method from a thread class, thread will not be initiated to run. Okay, compulsory start method has to be called if you want to run the thread. Okay, these are the 3 ways. Now first case, what I want to show you is, here I am not going to pass anything. Okay, or I have written run and I will pass some parameter here. Then what happens? Let us see. Okay. Now I will go to the same program here. Just I will pass. I will talk about run method. Here what I will do, I will extend thread. Okay, so if I extend thread, it will search for what? It will search for a run. Okay, normally if I'm not passing any parameter here, it will search for what? Run. Define run. I am going to write here. What I am going to write here, I am going to just a print of I am run. I am run. Okay, now observe carefully. Here did I pass? Just I will remove all these things. I will not pass any argument here. So is there any need of, observe carefully, I will not create this x also, just I will dot t dot start. Now observe carefully here, t equal to my thread. Am I passing anything here? No. So that if I call t dot start, which one will executed? Run method will be executed. That means main thread and I am run will be executed. Let us see now. So see, main thread is executed, I am run, main thread will be executed. The output will be what? Mixed. I can't expect exact output here because both threads are executing simultaneously. Now, if I pass argument as run is there, if I pass some target to this one, what happens? Let us see here. Target equal to, this is, if I want to execute this display, I have to create which object? My thread object. Okay. So now I will try here directly calling display. Okay, observe carefully. So now let us execute this program. So what we are getting, display is not defined because what I have to write, I have to create an object here. Compulsory I have to create an object of type my thread. Okay, directly I cannot write in this way. So what I have to write, I have to create an object and I have to pass that one to this one. Like let us take my thread I am going to create, and t equal to, I will some x equal to, I will write x equal to. So if I write x dot display, let us see what happens. X dot display, let us see. So again it's telling what? My thread is not defined. Is my thread is not defined? This is what my thread only. But here what happens? Here I have to use thread now. Here I have to use thread. So again it is showing what? Name, sorry, spelling mistake is there. I will try with this one only. My thread. Here there is a my thread is there. Okay. Now observe, we are getting the output here. Okay. So if I am not writing this one, observe carefully. If I am not writing this one, and if I am removing this one, where is display? Display means it has to be known by the Python interpreter. If I write display, it is not visible. To access this one, compulsory I require what? I require some object. So did I write any object? No. So that what we are going to get? We are going to get an error. Name display is not defined. Why it is telling? It is not visible for the Python interpreter. To make it visible, what I have to do? I have to create object of my thread type and I have to use x dot display. Okay, this is the case. Okay, right. Now observe carefully. If I write here thread also, no problem. If I write my thread also same. If I am writing thread also, it will give you same output. There is no problem. But if I write, observe carefully here, I am run, it is going to give you. If I write my thread, this is very important point. I want to discuss this one only. So if I write my thread, what happens here? My thread is having the thread class. As it is extending thread class, it will go for what? Run only. If run is there, if target is there, it will go to where? First it will search here. If there is a target, and it will search whether there is run or not. If run is there, this will not be executed. If run is not there, this will be executed. Now if I write this thread, then what happens? Directly it will go to display method only. It will not go to run. So see, it will not go to run, it will go to display method only. Yes. Now let us take different cases regarding to this multi-threading. So already I have shown you what? I have shown you 3 different ways to create a thread. Okay. Now first one is, I want to talk about run method now. First case, just I will write here. Okay, first I will execute and I will write. Just I will remove. So everything is fine here. Okay. I don't want to write, observe carefully, I don't want to write run method. I don't want to write run method here. Just I will remove this one. But I'm calling t dot start. I will remove this one also here. I'm going to remove this one. And now observe here, just I will write pass. Now here X is which type? My thread type. Okay. T dot thread. Am I passing anything here? I am not passing anything. First thing is what? Here, is it compulsory? Is it compulsory to pass an argument? Is it compulsory to pass an argument? No need. So it is also not required. Anyway, it is also not required. I am removing this one. If I am going to create t dot t equal to thread, and if I write t dot start, what happens? T dot start means it will search for run here. Or sorry, here I have to write what? This t equal to, I have to write my thread. Okay, anyway, sorry, right, my thread. So it will search for what? It will search for a run method in my thread. Is there any run method in my thread? Not there. Then what happens? Then if the particular function is method is not present in the child class, it will search in thread superclass. So is there a run method in superclass? Yes, there is a run method in superclass which is not having any body. What is that? Which is not having any body. That means what? For that particular thread, for that particular method, we are not having any implementation, so that we are going to get output as what? We are going to get output as empty. If I execute this program, what we are going to get? We are going to get output as empty. So just I will explain this scenario now. Now I think this is clear for you how to create a thread. Now I'm going for different cases. First case is what? First case is if we are not overriding run method. If you are not overriding run method, what happens? I am discussing about this one. Now observe carefully. Already I am talking about thread class. So just I will give you some important methods that are from thread class. First one is start method. Second one is run method. By default, these are available in thread class. If I am going to write my thread extends thread, the meaning of this one is what? The meaning of this one is these two properties are available for this my thread. So here I am going to write run method. I am going to override. First I will show you. I am going to override run method. I am going to override. Here I am going to define something. After that, I am going to create which object? T equal to my thread. T equal to my thread, because T equal to my thread means what? T is which object? My thread object. If I write T dot start, is there any start method in our my thread? It is not there. Then what happens? Superclass, sorry, T dot start. Okay, in my thread there is no start. Then what happens? Superclass start will be executed. We want what? This method has to be executed anyway. So that method is going to be executed. Next, after executing this one, if it will check for what? Run method. Is there any run method here? Yes, it is there. So that run method will be executed. Okay. So by default, if I'm not writing any parameter here, now example, I have not written this. I have not written this run method also in my thread. Observe carefully. Then what happens? Then first it will come to t dot start. It will go to where? Run method. Is there any run method here? Not there. Then it will go to thread class and it will execute which method? Run method. If I execute thread class run method, then what happens? So then we are going to get empty implementation. 1 minute. So now observe here. I'm going to execute this program. So we are going to get what? Only main thread we are going to get. What about child thread? After t dot start, what we are going to get? T dot start means child thread will be created and it will go for what? Run method here. If I'm not passing anything here. So is there any run method here? Not there. Then it will go to thread class run method. Is there a thread class run method is available or not? Yes, it is there. But nothing is going to be present in that. Empty implementation is there. So that we are going to get only main thread. We are going to get only main thread. So this is the point for what? This is for if you are not overriding a run method, then what happens? Thread class run method will be executed. Okay. Then in that thread class run method, nothing is there to execute. So we are not going to get any output. So only we are going to get, what is the output we got here? Only main thread, because there is no task to execute for the child thread. The run method is empty. Yes, this is first case. Next case, I want to, the concept is what? Overloading. I want to overload run method. That means what? I want to take two run methods here. Observe carefully this one. Define run. This is self I am going to take. Here I want to take just print of run method I will write. Print of run method I am going to write here. Now I will take overloading means what? Is it possible? Is it available? Overloading is available in our Python. It is not called as a overloading, but when I try to overload a function here, observe carefully. Self comma I am taking some variable here. So I am going to print what? Just I am going to print this is one parameter. This is one parameter run I am going to write. Now observe, if I execute this program, what it is going to execute? Just observe carefully. It is going to give you what? Exceptions. Okay, exception in thread 1. So every time it is, while it is going to execute, we are going to get what? Exceptions. 1 minute. Right. Now see, once again I will execute. So what happens? We are going to get what? Exceptions. Why we are going to get an exception means, you may think that as we are going to create t is which type? My thread type. Okay, there is no problem. My thread is having all the properties of thread. Thread means what? Run method is available for my thread. So I have overridden this one. Okay, there is no problem. It is correct. But I have overloaded run method. If I am going to apply the concept of method overloading, then what happens? Automatically last method will be considered. That means t dot start means what? It will search for run method to execute. Then what is the run method in this one? It is there. So last method will be considered here. But whatever start will execute means run method without any parameter, only self has to be there. Without any parameter it will execute. That means t dot start means it will search for this method. But what I have written? I have written one more method. So if I am writing two methods with same name, our control comes to second method only, last method only. So here it requires what? Only one parameter. If it requires only one parameter, here two parameters are there. So we will not get any output. If we take this one last, for example, if I'm taking this one as a last method of my class, then is there any problem for this one? No problem. We are going to get what? Run method one time and main threads are going to be printed. There is no problem, because this is going to be, this will not be shown, just this is going to be executed. But if we write this one, what happens? Whatever t dot start wants this type of method. If you write this one after this first run, then what happens? This will not be seen. First method will not be seen by the interpreter. This thread cannot see this one, so it can see only this run method. So what this t wants? T wants only one argument run. That, sorry, cell one without any arguments it require. But here one argument I have passed. So that what will be the error? You can observe carefully here. So study this error once. This one, missing one required position argument A. That means it is saying that it is missing something. Here one argument is there. Why you are calling without any argument? Internally it calls what? Run. Internally it calls run without any argument. But here one argument is there. It is telling in that way. So this is the concept of what? If you are going to overload, is it recommended to overload run method? Is it recommended in this way? No. Compulsory overloading is not recommended when we are going to use the concept of, what is this? Multi-threading. Okay. This is second case. What is the second case we have seen? Just I will remove this one. First case is completed. What is the first case we have seen? If you are not overriding, is overriding is necessary? Is overriding is necessary? No. Don't override. Don't override. Sorry. If you are not overriding, what happens? Run method in from thread will be executed. If you are not overriding run method, then run method from thread class will be executed. thread class will be executed. Is it better to override or not? It is better, or it is recommended to override. Okay, otherwise it will execute always what? Thread class run method, it will be executed. Now second case is what? Overloading of run method. Overloading of run method. Is it recommended to do? No. Don't overload. Okay, if you overload the run method, what happens? Last method that is available will be executed by your this t. So if it is having parameters, then what happens? We will get an exception. So it is not recommended to overload run method. Next case, third case, I want to show you about if you are not overriding run method. Okay, anyway, this case is completed here. Next, overloading of run method also completed. I want to override, very important, overriding of start method. Overriding of start method. So till now we have seen t dot start. If I say t dot start, whose start is going to be executed? Start method of thread is going to be executed. But now what I am doing? I am doing, observe carefully, define space. I am writing on my own. Here this is whose self, sorry, whose start this is. This is my thread start. So if I write here print of this is, I will write my start. If I call t dot start, if I call in this way, will thread is going to be created or not? Thread will not be created, because if I call t dot start, t belongs to whom? My thread. It will go to my thread first and it will search for start. Is there any start? Yes, start is there. So it will execute this one. If this t is going to execute this one, then internally thread is not going to be created. If thread is not going to be created, then what happens? Start will be executed first, next main thread will be executed. It is compulsory, it should be in order. Am I calling any run? No. If I want to call this run, how I have to call? I have to call t dot run only once again. But first I don't want to talk about this one now. I want to talk, okay, anyway, I will keep this one. If I call t dot start, what happens? It will call this start only. Observe carefully. So see, first what it is going to execute? My start. Okay, thread is not going to be created here, because if it executes start method of thread class only, thread will be created. But here I have overridden start method. Then if I call t dot start, it will execute this start. It will not execute thread class start. If it is not executing thread dot class, then what happens? Then thread will not be created. If thread is not created, will this run method is going to be executed? Not executed. So what happens here? Run method is not going to be, that is what, run method is not printed here. Okay, so now tell me, is it recommended to override start method? No, because if you override start method, then what happens? That overridden method will be called, but we require what? Thread start method we require. So don't override start method, but it is recommended to override what? Run method is compulsory. It should be run method has to be overridden. So two things here we have to observe. That is what? First one is we have to override. We have to override which one? Override run method. If you are not overriding, it will call what? Thread class run method. Thread class here I will write. Thread class run will be executed. So anyway, if thread class run method is going to be executed, nothing is there in that thread class run. So empty output is going to be given. It is okay. It is recommended. Next, overriding of start method. Overriding of start method, is it recommended? It is not recommended. If you override start method, what happens? Then automatically your child thread start will be called. Main thread, sorry, thread class start will not be called. So we compulsory, if you are going to, if you want to run a thread, compulsory start method of thread class has to be executed. Okay, next I want to talk about overloading. Overloading of run method, it is not recommended. Already we have seen. Next, overloading of start method. So overriding is not possible, not recommended. Then what is the use of this overloading? Overloading also not recommended. So only one thing is recommended, that is what? Overriding of run method. So this is very important concept we have to understand. So what is the point we are going to see here? Overloading and overriding we have seen here. So overloading of run and start is not recommended. Don't write. Better don't write. Overriding of start. Don't write. If you write overriding of start, thread will not be created. If thread is not going to be created, then how to call this run method? Like a normal method. T dot run I have to call. If I call that method only, it will be executed. Observe carefully. See, then only it will be printed. So why it is printing in order? Because all these statements are going to be executed by main only. Every statement will be executed by main only, because here I am not creating any thread. So that first what I am t dot start, so it will go here, control goes here, and it will print my start. First it will print what? My start. Next control comes back here and it will execute what? T dot run. It will go to run method and it will execute. Run method will be printed here. Next once again it will come back to here. Then what happens? Main thread will be printed 5 times. Okay, this is the concept. So these cases also you have to understand. So these are the different ways to create a thread, and these are the different cases you have to understand. So you may get some doubt that, sir, what is the need of going for a, what we can say, multi-threading? We have the concept of normal execution, no? That means what, if I am executing everything by a main thread, what is the problem? Is there any problem? So generally there is no problem, but only one thing you have to observe is what? Task will be executed successfully in both the cases, but execution time is going to be increased if I am not going to create multiple threads. Just I will show you by one scenario. Just I will take two methods here. So which methods I will take? For example, I will take, first I will write a normal program without having anything, without having what I can say, any thread concept I will create here. Without having any thread concept, I will write one program. So where I am going to define, I want to perform some operation like I want to find out powers. Two powers I want to find. So that I am going to take two powers. Function name is what? Two powers. So for every number I am going to take, I am going to pass what? I am going to pass to this particular function. So I don't want to take self here because I'm not going to take in a class. So just I will take numbers here. So for the numbers what I am passing, for every number 2 power has to be printed. For I in numbers, so for every value in numbers, what I want to do, I want to print powers, 2 powers, 2 power, 2 power of whom, 2 power of, 2 power of I. What is that? I is what I have to write 2 power. How I have to write 2 power? 2 power can be represented by 2, what I have to write here, exponential, right, I. That means what, if I pass 2 power 1, if the I value is 1, 2 power 1. If I value is 2, 2 power 2. If I value is 3, 2 power 3 has to be printed here. That is my case. Next, I will take one more method, same type of method. It is 2 powers. Now I want to perform squares. This is 2 powers. Now I want to perform what? Square of the number. So second method I will take what? Squares. Squares method I will take same thing. Just here I will write square of I. Square of I will take. It will give me how to calculate a square here. For calculating square, just I have to write I into I. Right. This is the concept I want to execute now. Now I don't want to use any threading concepts here. So no thread will be there. If no thread is there, how it is going to execute? Let us see. If I'm just, I will take some numbers equal to 1 to 5 I will take. Okay, some 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5. So numbers contains what? 1 2 3 4 5. Just I will call 2 powers of numbers. I am passing what? An argument as some numbers here. So these numbers will be passed here, and for every number it is going to execute 2 powers. In the same way, I want to pass numbers to squares also. Squares of numbers I am going to pass. Here what happens? Every number is going to be squared here. So let us see what is the output. So first, what is going to be executed? 2 powers, because every statement in this example will be executed only by the main thread. Okay, so that first this statement is going to be executed. Next, this statement, that is nothing but what we are calling a function. So first the main thread goes here and it will execute this one. That is what 1 2 3 4 5 I have passed in these numbers. First I value is what? 1. So 2 power of 1 is 2 power 1, that is 2. So 2 power of 1 is 2. Next, second value will be taken. 2 power of 2 is 4. 2 power of 2 is 4. In that way, everything will be executed. After that, it will come back to here. Once again, what we are having? Squares of numbers. So it will go here and it will execute this one. So first one is what? Squares of 1 is 1. Square of 2 is 4. Square of 3 is what? 9. In that way, it is going to, it's going to perform what? Cubes it is going to perform. It is not going to perform squares. I into I is nothing but what? I square 1 minute. Here I have written power. Sorry, I have to write what? I into I have to write. So it will give you square. 1, 4, 9, 16, 25. It will give you squares. First one is what? Powers, and second one is squares. Here, I think it is not our concept. Just I am showing normal functions. Our concept is what? I want to show you that this, if I am going to the concept of multi-threading, then our time is going to be less. I want to show you this scenario. Okay. For that, what I am going to do? I want to calculate the time. Already in one example, I shown you that how to calculate the time, starting time and ending time. So first I have to import which module? I have to import a time module. So import time I'm going to take. So just here, before starting the execution, I will calculate the time here. What is that? For that I will take B time. B time is nothing but beginning time. That is time dot time. I will take time dot time here. Okay, after completing I want to take one more time here. Okay, that is e time, end time I am going to take. So here also time dot time I am going to take. Right, completed. Now I want to calculate total time taken. So here I will print that one. Print of total time taken by, total time taken to execute the function. Okay, what I have to write? Total time taken to execute the functions is, how I can calculate? End time minus, sorry, e time minus beginning time. That is nothing but b time. Okay, if I write in this way, I will get a time, total time. Observe now, total time, how much time it takes? 0.32. Once again, if I execute, it may take some other time. Okay, it is not compulsory to take every time the same time. Okay, it may change in nanoseconds. Okay, it is changing. Anyway, now I want to show you what I want to show, as it is very less time. Just I want to increase the time. So for that I am taking what? Just I want to waste some time. Just what I want to do, I want to waste some time here. So time dot sleep of 1 second. So every time while it is printing, it will sleep for 1 second. Okay, just I am going to write, because I want to increase the time so that you can identify the difference. Okay, so see, after 1 second it is going to print. Everything is going to print it after 1 second. So first task is completed, second function is going to be executed. Right now, see, time can be identified here. Okay, so 10.2988 seconds it has taken. Now I will keep this time only. If I execute once again also, minimum it will take 10 seconds. Minimum it will take 10 seconds. Observe now. So see, you can observe clearly, because you have to find this difference. What is that? If I am executing with multi-threading, what happens? If I am executing with without multi-threading, what happens? So anyway, 10 point something. Now same code, I will change it into threading concept. To what I am going to change? Threading concept. No need of changing everything. Just I am going to write on small thing. That means what? I am going to create a threads here. So for creating a threads, what I have to write? For creating a threads here, I will write beginning time only. After that, I will create a thread. T1 equal to thread of two, as two functions are there, I will create two threads. So for first thread, what is the target? Target is what? Target is first function. So first function is what? 2 powers equal to, I'm writing what? 2 powers. Now my doubt is, here while I'm calling 2 powers, I'm passing arguments. So here also I need to pass an arguments. So just I am passing args equal to. Observe now, here I am passing numbers. Okay, right. Next, T2 I am passing. T2 I am going to create. For T2, which has to be target? Next method. That is target equal to. That is what squares method. Squares method. For this, arguments are same numbers, equal to numbers I have to pass. Okay, observe carefully here. Right, now what I have to do? I have to start the threads. For starting that, what I have to do? T1 dot start. Observe carefully, T1 dot start and T2 dot start. T2 dot start. Here what happens? I have created two threads and I'm starting those two threads. And main thread will do what? Main thread will execute its own. That means what? After T1 executes this one, T2 executes this one, then main thread will execute these two. Is it correct? No. What I have to do? My process is, after executing these two only, main thread has to be executed, because when the end time has to be calculated, end time has to be calculated after everything is executed. Everything is nothing but what? After 2 powers is executed, after squares is executed. So what I am going to do? Just I am going to use a join method. Join method is nothing but, so whenever we are going to write a join method, who is going to execute these two statements now? Main thread is going to execute these two statements. If main thread is going to execute these two statements, that indicates what? Main thread is telling that I will not complete my execution. I will not start my execution until T1 is completed. Okay. Next, again, what I'm writing? T2 dot join. That means what? Who is executing this statement? This statement is going to be executed by main thread. That means what? Main thread is telling what? Main thread is telling that until T2 completion also, I will not start my execution. That means up to here it's okay. Up to here it's okay. It will be executed by main thread, and main thread is going to create two child threads, T1 and T2, and T1 goes here, T2 goes here. It executes these two functions. Now main thread will execute remaining statements. Those statements are T1 dot join. That means what? Main thread will not execute until T1 completes. And also main thread will not execute T2 completes. That means what? Main thread will be executed only after these two are going to be executed. After, if T1 task is completed, if T2 task is completed, then end time will be calculated, then total time will be calculated. Now observe clearly. So here it is saying name thread is not defined. Sorry. Here I have tried what? Import threading has to be written here. Okay. So from, what is that? From threading, I have to import all. So import star. Let us see now. So again it is saying what? Already some time is calculated, and exception in thread, thread 1, thread 2. Let us see some error here. Run method. So here did I pass? Okay, this arguments has to be passed. Here I have taken what? T1 equal to thread I have taken, and I'm given some target. Okay, 2 powers, no problem. Next, T2 I have taken target squares, args numbers I have passed. T1 dot start, T2 dot start. Yes, anyway we got it is correct only. Now here I have to pass arguments as, observe carefully, I have to pass arguments as tuple. Okay, so already we know what is meant by tuple, right? Now let us see. Yes, it is correct. So what happens here? Something is going to be happen here. What is that? That something is nothing but what? Both are executing simultaneously. Anyway, finally after executing that, we are going to get time as what? 5.29. So to make not to execute, what happens? Again I have to keep here compulsory. Let us consider first this one has to execute, second this one has to execute. For example, again same time will be taken. Now what I want to show you, that after executing, anyway I am not make the thing complex, just I don't want to pass anything, just I want to print thread 1 and thread 2. Thread 1 how many times? 5 times, and thread 2 5 times. I don't need any calculations here. Okay, thread 2. So now there will be no confusion for you. Okay, right. I want to print thread 2. No need of having these arguments and all those things, because when I have to pass arguments, if there is any requirement of calculation, then I require arguments. So I will remove these arguments also. These arguments I will remove, right? Just I will, this one also I will remove. Now as numbers are not there here, just I will write some range here. Fry in range of how many times it has to be executed. I will take 5. Here also same thing I will take for I in range of 5 I'm going to take. Yes, there is no problem now. Here I have removed. Yes, now observe carefully. See here, it may be executed anyway. I don't mind it. Both are executing simultaneously. Total time taken we have to observe 5.10. If I am going to execute same thing by using without threads, how much time it is going to take? Minimum 10 seconds. But it is executing how many times? Parallel it is executing. So it will take only 5 seconds. Okay, minimum 5 seconds it is going to take. So child thread is executing this, one thread is executing this one, simultaneously it is executing this one. Total time wasted is how many time? How much time it is going to sleep? 5 seconds. Here how much time it is taking? 5 seconds. So if both are executing simultaneously, output will be 5. If both are executing sequentially, first this one will be executed, next this one will be executed. 5 seconds, 5 seconds. How much time it will take? It will take nearly 10 seconds. So just I will remove all these things, and I have to call what? I have to call what? T dot directly I can call what? 2 powers. 2 powers I have to call. Just I am calling 2 powers. I'm not calculating anyway, just I want to call squares without using the concept of multi-threading. Now observe. So what is the time? Here we have to observe what? Time taken, because we are seeing this example for time taken only. Okay, observe carefully. So time taken is what? 10 seconds. So in this session we have seen what? How to create a thread. In 3 ways we can create a thread, and different cases we have seen about run method and start method, and also we have seen on small example, if there is a multi-threading concept is applied for a program, for an application, how much time it is going to take, and if it is not applied, if multi-threading is not applied for a program, how much time it is going to see taken, we have seen in this session. So in next session we will see some of the important methods that are used in this multi-threading concept, and also we will see we will start the concept of synchronization. Thank you.